You boys know what's about to happen to you. You'd leave now.
Some consider these traits to be toxic, such as undesirable in the men of today. We consider these traits such as these not only to be desirable, but to be appreciated and celebrated. Welcome to the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, hosted by and La Reina Creole. Welcome to the safe space for the toxic male.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, live streaming exclusively on Twitch the first time around. I am here with my co-host, the gorgeous. How are you doing, my dear?
I'm doing well. And how are you, Lorraine? You're so beautiful in blue today.
Oh, thank you so very much, my dear. I am doing great, especially since uh, work day is over and we get to talk hot guys. So
Everybody
it's
can
just,
use a little hot guy therapy after work.
oh goodness, yes. I think that should be required. You know, have a little hot guy therapy. Oh, that sounds like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Oh man. Oh, so I love this is our show number 4, actually.
Oh my
For
God,
fourth
really?
show. Yeah, for
Oh my
Toxic Male
God.
Appreciation.
Oh,
And
I love it.
it's been great. How it's been taken off and people are like dropping by, learning new stuff, great discussions and all of that. And for those of you who don't know, after it airs on Twitch, a couple days later, usually the Sunday after, the video premieres over on YouTube. So that's two ways that you can catch it. So speaking of YouTube and Twitch, why don't you tell the people out there where they can find you?
Yes, guys, you can always find me on my channel, which is Positive Fandom on YouTube, or just one word, Positive Fandom on Twitch. But you can also find me on Monday nights, and probably next Monday I will be there. Thank God, God willing.
Yes, we missed you so much.
Feel right when I the show. You know I hate doing that, Lorena. I will be on Toxic Femininity again. Thank God. So all will be right with the world, streaming with you, Lorena, and with Nina, and with Mandy, and things will start to bloom and be prosperous in my life again once I'm back on Wednesday and Thursdays. You can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, or you can find me on the PGS network with Robert Meyer Burnett. So, guys, that's where you can check me out too.
Oh, because her channel is just growing between Twitch and YouTube. It's awesome. So you need to subscribe to her, especially that Sunday brunch. That Sunday brunch parlay is amazing.
Thank you
Absolutely,
so much.
absolutely amazing. I do my drive by. Hey, how you doing? Okay, I'm running to church now. So I make sure to do that. But folks, of course, you can find me on Twitch, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on YouTube. So various shows throughout the week. Of course, Toxic Femme, with of course, on Mondays. On my channel, usually Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, Welcome to Florida show. Definitely check that out. It's a crazy good time. We also have the Lunch Table Show on Fridays at 12 noon. So please do come and check that out. And of course, usually a theme park stream on a Saturday morning. And sometimes as a bonus, Jackbox game stream on Friday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have way too much fun. I don't think I don't think you can, but we just do.
Yeah, much fun. It's wonderful. I enjoy it when I can attend that. And guys, you should check it out too if you want to interact with everybody pretty much who's there. It's really a lot of
Mhm. God, I literally my sides hurt from laughing so hard every time we play Jackbox. Xbox games. But what definitely is nothing to laugh at is our subject for today's toxic male appreciation. We did have one person on board, but things change and we adapt. So this one we definitely had to talk about. And that is, I'm so sorry. I keep giving people I didn't mean to give people epilepsy. Sometimes StreamYard decides it wants to be a jerk. So here we go. Let's try this. Let's try this again. We'll go to the
Yes.
side.
Yes.
Alexander Skarsgard.
Yes. Yes. Hello there, handsome. I have to say, Lorena, that we do this show, and of course, to all the men out there, we love you and we appreciate you. It's one of the reasons why we do the show, so that you know that we think you're important. Your opinions matter to us. If you're, we've heard all the negativity and the vilification of men. We don't support that. We
Yeah.
support men. We think that you matter, and you certainly do matter in our lives. And we think you matter in, the importance of the world. So, we want to go ahead and support men here. And we also like people to encourage rejecting modernity and embracing this masculinity that we see in so many of the wonderful artists, Lorena, who
Mhm.
are out there that happen to be men. And we appreciate you men out there. And we appreciate artists like this gentleman here, Lorena, who is just unbelievable, isn't he?
He is absolutely just just amazing. It's funny because as soon as I saw his last name, I'm like, let me check out his bio.
Mhm.
And his dad is
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård from The Hunt for Red October. I'm like,
Yes.
damn,
Yes.
good
I'm
looks
sorry.
running the family. Because I was
Yes.
like, why do I know this dude? I don't know this dude, but I know this dude. We'll get into that like a little bit later. But he's
Mhm.
gorgeous. He's tall. I loved seeing him as the Viking vampire in True Blood.
Yes, yes, he was wonderful in that series, Lorena. I watched that series. I thought he was so charismatic. He came across like the vampires in the Anne Rice novel almost, from antiquity. And I was very surprised at his interpretation of the character. I wasn't expecting such a deep vampire, but it was just absolutely spectacular. Now he shined in that role, and as we all know, Lorena, that was kind of his breakout role, wasn't it?
Truly, it was because I hadn't heard of him before or heard his name before, at least prominently heard his name before, until he showed up in True Blood, and that was a show where I didn't quite watch it from the beginning, but as soon as his character showed up, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm on board. I'm on board because, like I said, it's like he's tall, he's gorgeous, he has those traditional, you know, male features that just like I won't say every guy. Let's put it this way. You have to look at him, all right, with the square jaw, everything. If there was like a cookie cutter, hey, this is a true specimen of masculinity, it would be Alexander Skarsgård for real.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I have a friend called Stubble McShave. At least that's his YouTube name. I know his real name, but that's his, name, and he's kind of prominent in our circles.
Uh-huh.
Past few years. And he's also from the same area. And Stubble mentioned to me that the men in his area, he's also Scandinavian. He says that the average height of the men in his area is something like 6'4" or 6'5". And I just was like, what? Like it seems so incredible, but yet so cool. And that's, I'm not saying that you have to be 6'4", 6'5", but I really did not know that that was their average height. Because when he told me he was 6'5", I said, wow, you're kind of tall. And he's like, well, not really compared to everybody else. And I'm like, well, who's he talking about? And clearly, you know, the people in his town. And, So I guess, and I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that, his height, as you know, Alexander is 6'4". And recently I was watching, I happened to glance upon a daytime television show where
Hmm.
he, on the show, I think it was, um, what's that lady's name from, she's on with Ryan, Kelly and Ryan. And while he
Hmm.
was on Kelly and Ryan show, he did mention that he was 6'4". But boy, Lorena, I have to tell you, he at the age of 41, he seems like a 20-year-old kid. He's very vibrant and young, and he has, so much charisma, and he's very, very fit. He's just absolutely charming. He's not dour at all. Like, this is somebody who I think is an actor and is very happy with where he is in life. It was absolutely refreshing to see, what an interesting man Alexander Skarsgård is, even outside of acting.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So to kind of go into his IMDb, because that's what we do here, a
That.
little bit. He was born in Stockholm, Sweden.
Mhm.
And like we said earlier, eldest son of famed actor Stellan Skarsgård. Now, this is what piques my interest, because if you've
Okay.
ever watched The Hunt for Red October,
Yes.
that movie,
I'm
like,
sorry.
on the edge of my seat watching, the
Mhm.
Hunt for Red October. And I think his father played
The
the
captain.
Russian sub captain. Yeah, he did. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like he's in this family that is a very,
Oh,
very artistic family, and not just anybody, not just anybody. You mentioned
mhm.
Stellan Skarsgård. It's like, first of all, that
Yes.
last name, that last name, and you're just like, why do I know where that is? But to come from such a family like that, his father being an acclaimed actor in Europe, but he didn't come to fame until much, much later. Oh my God,
And
six
and
four
I
and a half. Damn.
Yeah, I know, right? I do want to say a few things about Stellan Skarsgård because, as you said, Lorena, it's impossible not to make the association between the two of them. They do look similar. Of course, this is his father.
Hmm.
He is an acclaimed actor, and you and I have been watching Stellan Skarsgård in so many films over the last 20 years or so. He really has been influential in so many ways. He was also in Good Will Hunting, Amistad. He's in the new Dune by Denis Villeneuve. He's in Andor, the upcoming Andor. He played Schindler in Schindler's List, but he's also been in films like Nymphomaniac and Dancer in the Dark, the Bjork film that she made, one of her
Wow.
performance art films. And he's also in this Chernobyl series, the one HBO made. He won a
Hmm.
Golden Globe for that, Lorena, just a few years ago. But my favorite film that he's in, I mean, he has so many fantastic films. Let me tell you something, Lorena. If this man were single, okay, that's all I'm going to say. Stellan Skarsgård still kind of rocks it for me. I think he has a lot of charisma and talent, and I've seen him in everything from British procedurals to, as I
Hmm.
said, the film Nymphomaniac. But there's a film that he made called Breaking the Waves, and it was kind of like a Lady Shatterley's Lover style movie where
Really?
he plays this man who works on an oil rig, and he gets married to this really beautiful young girl, and
Hmm.
unfortunately he has this accident. It's very sad. He has this accident and he's kind of paralyzed, and his wife comes and takes care of him. She couldn't be more than like 21 or 22, and he actually tells her, you know what, I can't have you living a life like this. I love you, and you need to go out and experience the joys of sex with someone in a way that I can't give it to you. And I just, like, my jaw dropped as I was watching this, Lorena. And I'm like, wow, this is very interesting. I mean, it was just such incredible cinema because we're there to be entertained. We're there to
Hmm.
enjoy this experience. It was a tough kind of role to play, but they had so much charisma in the story. I can't remember the actress's name, but that
Hmm.
really got my attention. And I just think that Stellan, and he's also in a lot of MCU movies as well, Lorena. In all the Thor ones, he was in Avengers.
Hmm.
This man is incredible. And this is Alexander Skarsgård's father.
His dad.
Hmm.
His
His
dad.
dad. Yeah.
He made that.
Yes. That's right. And I have to say that I think Skarsgård definitely sets a tier of excellence when it comes to his work. You know,
Absolutely.
I always say Stellan rather than Alexander or Peter, you know, some of the other his sons who were actors and even nephews perhaps. But you cannot overlook Stellan because he definitely has you know, he's a hard act to follow, but it seems like Alexander is definitely up to the challenge, Lorena.
Absolutely. So why don't we dive into a little bit about the movie that I'm kind of annoyed I haven't had a chance to see yet, because it's kind of like when your friends all go see this movie and they're like, "You got to see this movie. You got to see this movie." And you're like, "Stuff keeps happening where I can't, I can't see the darn movie." And of course, that movie would be The Northman. I had intended to land on this, but daggone it, we're gonna. So Alexander Skarsgard in The Northman. Now, this movie I'd heard so much like press about, and not like in the printed press, but let's just say in the interwebs and among YouTubers here saying, "Hey, this independent flick is coming out." I had Chris Gore, who was gonna be on my show one week, he had to kind of push it back, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry I have to do this, but I have this interview that I have to do." Yeah, I'm supposed to be interviewing Robert Eggers, and I'm like,
Oh, lucky man.
"Understandable. I see you when when I see you," but I've heard so many great things about this movie, and you are one lucky woman to have seen this. So why don't you tell us about it, my dear?
I would love to tell you about the Northman. I have to tell you, Lorena, I didn't know what to expect when I stepped into this film. I knew that it was going to be a film of epic proportions, but I had no idea that it was going to embrace so much of the culture, embrace so much of the ardor and the strength in masculinity, that it would involve different types of themes and even a scene that reminded me of Star Wars, Lorena. I wasn't expecting to have that type of experience when I stepped into the cinema, but I did. I was blown away by initially seeing such an incredible interpretation of the lore of these of the people that are depicted in this film. It truly was amazing to see Bajork do this performance as sort of a seer in the film and
Mhm.
a guide to this character that Stellan Skarsgård plays, who is essentially trying to, avenge his father's death. And they don't miss a beat because they made a point of showing the beginning of the film where he's a young boy, and it's from his
Mhm.
point of view, and they're
Mhm.
not sugarcoating it. You know, he witnessed something horrific, and as he lives his life as an adult, he never strays away from this goal. You know, he becomes, this character, this person whose sole desire is to achieve this. And along the way, Lavinia, he grows as the story does. And we find out so much about the culture and what's important to the people, but also who the berserkers are, how people live their lives, the challenges, Lorena. I could never survive in this type of environment, but these people were so tough. They were so determined. And I have to say, Alexander really shines in this film. He is just perhaps maybe the epitome of beauty of a Viking here, as far as I'm concerned. If I have to pick a Viking, it's going to be Alexander Skarsgård. I think that he is a testament to the strength and the will of what it meant
Mhm.
to be a person in this position, of what it meant to be a Viking. You know, this is my maybe perhaps even more glamorized version, although from what I've told from people who are from this culture, that this is perhaps the most accurate depiction of this lifestyle ever made. And I have to say, Lorena, for me, I think that in this day and age and everything that the country's been through, everything that we've been through, we want something that has a little bit more substance to it. We want something that has more realism to it. And this involves not just the realism of a script that depicts historical facts, but also the realism of what life was like at that time. So often we're fed with movies where it's a, kind of a dramatization and something that really is sort of, an artistic interpretation of what it was like to be there at that time. But this is not
Mhm.
that at all. This is historically accurate, and so are the men that we're seeing in the film. Where I have to say, seeing the performances, some of them reminded me of the Haka performances that we talked about earlier, Lorena, of the men kind of. Yeah, it was mesmerizing. My jaw was dropping to the ground half the time. For a good portion of the invasion, Skarsgård is in, and some of the other berserkers are in loincloths and nothing more. We're seeing physiques that would rival the ones in 300. That's the level of fitness that these men are in. They are
Wow.
tall, ominous presence. Could defeat you almost with a scream. Um, and we're also seeing, the desire to please different folklore and different prophecies. So many very interesting things about it. Alexander shines in this with Anna Taylor-Joy, who plays
Mhm.
his pretty much his interests in it. There is nudity in this film. There
Well,
are all
yeah.
sorts of, yeah, yes, there
Oh,
is.
yeah.
There is nudity in this film. This film doesn't shy away from that. I think that if you embrace masculinity, if you want to see a challenge on the screen, if you want to see fighting scenes, if you want to see, bloodshed, I'm sorry, I know that sounds terrible, but bloodshed from a historical point of view, if you want to see the ardors of what it was like to be alive during this time, this is the film for you. And I also think that there's a cultural significance to this film. We're now seeing more accurate depictions of what life was like. And Lorena, this is just such an extraordinary film. Eggers is an incredible director to bring this on. It could be considered an art style film
Mhm.
with the level of expression and the level of care that was taken to make such a film that feels very real. It feels substantive. It doesn't feel
Mhm.
like you can just throw this film away. I want to rewatch this film 100 times. I want it playing in the background when I'm like just during the normal course of the day, because it's an encouraging film and it is absolutely wonderful when it comes to its visualizations. Lorena, I can't say enough about this film, and honestly,
Mhm.
this would be the film for me if I had to pick Skarsgård's best performance so far, and I've ever seen him in. This would be the one.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
need some water. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. After that extremely effusive and amazing, amazing analysis, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's interesting listening to you talk about it, especially when it comes to realism. Two things. I remember when I was in junior high school and we would read stories like Beowulf and like this early like English literature. One of the things that the English who lived on the coast feared the most was Viking invasion. And I remember this tapestry that I read or that they had translated that said, "Lord, spare us from the wrath of the Northmen." And I'm like, dang, that's freaking gangster. So the fact that they named this picture the Northman, that's of extreme significance because the English were freaking scared to death. And I had a sixth grade teacher who she was Scottish and she was born in Scotland and raised like in the US. And she was like, they would tell like these stories all the time of like what happened. The Vikings would come over, grab a couple of women as wives, and that's like what they would do. They would literally ransack and raid, and the people were terrified when these Viking ships would like come up. So fast forward, I'd actually taken a DNA test because I do like my family history and everything. And it turns out I match all of these people from Norway and Sweden. And I'm like, this doesn't this is kind of weird. It's like, kind of explain to me how this works, because DNA doesn't lie. And I find out we have a mutual match of someone who is from the UK. I'm like, okay, the UK makes sense. Norway and Sweden does make sense, especially when it comes to Norway. Well, it turns out that where this person was born and was from in Scotland is literally a boat ride over from Norway. To be more specific, God, I can't, Rogaland, Norway, which is like right, literally like on the coast of Norway. So it's like Rogaland is here, and this one part of Scotland is like right here, like on the coast. So for me, I love seeing these accurate depictions or close to accurate, like Vikings. I loved until Ragnar Lothbrok finally, kicked the bucket for real, and I wasn't interested anymore. But people love seeing these accurate depictions, and it's like, why? Because when it comes to warrior culture, the Vikings are up there, number one, with like Genghis. Like Genghis Khan and like famous conquerors. It's like the Vikings, it's just everybody's like, ooh, Vikings were like scared and fascinated at the same time. And that's what you want to see. Because it's like, how many video games are based on just Viking lore? It's like, I get to play RPG, I get to play as a Viking. And I believe you're right. People, especially with our climate today, people want to be immersed in something that doesn't preach to them. They want to be immersed in something that reminds them of the past, which is why there are so many, call them period pieces, even though it's romanticized somewhat, because you have to for your audience. Of course, Bridgerton is one. The Gilded Age on HBO is another one that shows like the rise of the industrialists and, old money versus, new money. One of my favorites, Peaky Blinders.
Yes.
The realism and violence of that, like the gangs over there, it's just like, oh my God, I can't freaking believe that they did that. But it's real, because some of those same gangster techniques were used by the Irish in America as well. So it's just, and that's why people are so fascinated with it.
And Anna Taylor-Joy was in that, in Peaky Blinders as well.
I can't. Who was her character? Was she great?
I
No,
don't
not
remember her
Grace.
character, but she was one of the ladies in Peaky Blinders. So it's not a surprise that she would be in something like that, because she's kind of an actress, I feel, although I don't know if this is true, but I feel like she likes to be in films that kind of stir things up. She doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily want sleepers. She wants films that are energetic, that have a lot of, or projects that are energetic and have a lot of action in them, and she tends to be in quite a few like that. But she is one of the characters in there. I would look it up, but I can't because my internet connection, the only one I have is on my phone right now, and
I'll
I'm on
tell
it.
you what, I'm gonna look this up. Anna
Mm-hmm.
Taylor-Joy
Mm-hmm.
Blinders. I bet you as soon as I see this picture, I'm gonna know what it is. Oh yeah, I know who she is now.
Yeah. So she's in the Northman, and she plays the main love interest of Skarsgård's character. And
Wow.
Skarsgård is 41 now. He's not 20. And I kind of fell in love with Skarsgård when I saw him in Generation Kill, which was a
Hmm.
HBO series about soldiers, and for those servicemen out there, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Was a series about soldiers. I believe it was in Iraq, but it could be Afghanistan. So I'm sorry, I can't remember which one, but it is about a company of soldiers. I believe it was the Army. So forgive me
Here we
if it's
go.
not the Army, but he really shined in this series as one of the lead. I guess he might be either, I don't know whether he was a non-commissioned officer, or what his role
Hmm.
was, but he was amazing in this. And just the generalness of his ability to try and make things better in a situation that was difficult for many of the soldiers to deal with. He played such a great role, Lorena, and I fell in love with him in this. I thought that his character and his personality came out especially in this. It
Hmm.
turned out that he also was in the military. I think it was in Sweden. I probably should, yeah, maybe it was in Sweden. He was in the Swedish military, so he is a former soldier or was a soldier for a while, and he also was in another military film recently called The Kill Team. That also was terrifying to me. There were some
Ooh.
very interesting parts in it, but he plays soldiers as well. So with his history of playing these soldiers, you need a strong character to play these dynamic characters, these soldiers in a lot of these dramas, which are based often on real events.
Mm-hmm.
He has that nailed down pat, but we've never ever, Lorena, had a chance to really see him in his full physical physique, other than one film that he made before. But this one in the Northman, I think that this is him at his peak, if not going into his peak in a way we've never seen him be
Mm-hmm.
so incredibly arduous. Lorena, it's so the physicality of what we were seeing. Really just shows his potential. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if he was, an MMA fighter or something, because of what it required just to do these scenes. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
how exposed he was. He does have a beautiful physique, but you can't have a physique like that unless you're working out all the time. Like,
Oh,
this is.
absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say hi. I know some folks popped in, and of course, we were so sucked into the
Yeah,
gorgeousness
we're
of
sorry.
Alexander Skarsgård and his dad. So we have Outer Mind Art, who says Nymphomaniac was an interesting film. Well,
Yes.
welcome.
Yes, and it was made recently. That's Stellan Skarsgård who made that film, and it is a film about sex. So it is a very interesting film, and it's something that I think everybody should check out. But it doesn't matter how old you are, people out there, still it's okay to still engage in sex and have those experiences. And I think when you continue to make films like that, that explore sexual themes, even as an older person, I think it's very healthy for our environment and just for our society, because there's a lot of pleasures out there to be had with that, and why not explore it? So I agree.
Yeah, you're just older, more mature. You're not dead,
Hmm.
you know. And Punk Nova Trace is here. Says hi, Reina Creole. How you doing, Punk Nova Trace? I freaking absolutely, absolutely love it. Love
Hmm.
that AVI. So thankful all of you hanging out there, hanging out here on Twitch with us. We are talking Alexander Skarsgård, and I'm looking at this since it's from the creator of The Wire. So wow, that's and it's on HBO Max. Okay, yep,
Hmm.
that's gonna go on my list. It's
You
gonna go
have
on
to
my
watch it.
list.
It's.
I'm gonna have to watch. Can I just say I'm getting so much of my money's worth out of HBO Max. I get it for free with AT&T wireless. So
Hmm.
man, I am HBO Max. It's a service where there's more stuff that I want to watch than time.
Well, they've been HBO, and Lorena, you remember when they first started to do these HBO productions, and there wasn't a lot of buzz about it at the time, but it's been over 20 years since they started to make their own productions, and many
Hmm.
of them are absolutely, amazing. They're better than most productions I've seen of, let's say, outside studio style. HBO studios, let's say, or whoever might be the
Hmm.
the ultimate producer. But a lot of what they make, even though it's 20 years old, it's still incredibly relevant and very, very good. And you can't say that about a lot of the productions that we've been seeing recently, from, let's say, alternative studios, so to speak. I don't know if 20 years ago whether HBO was associated with another production company or a studio, but what I can
Hmm.
say is that their work is absolutely phenomenal, and anything that it seems that they put out really has that Hollywood quality. So when you're watching Generation Kill, you're going to notice that it
Hmm.
seems like it's a Hollywood produced production, because it's that level of quality in it. So.
I agree. Even another show on HBO Max, I keep saying this because it's so detailed, and it's by the same people who did Downtown Abbey, and that's the Gilded Age, and it's set in like New York society, around the rise of the Industrial Revolution. I want to say, I think, like 1880. So rise of like the railroad barons. So you see like all this opulence, but it's shot like a multi-million dollar production between the costuming and and all of that, even the way the scripts are written, the way the sets, good lord, with the way the sets are made up, it's absolutely it's incredible. They have come a really long way. You're right. Pumpkin Betray says, I was watching the newest episode of Moon Knight before I came in here. My condolences.
Yeah, well, I felt like I'm not gonna. I never wanted like downplay something that they worked so hard to put out. Moon Knight, like there was a lot of production value. They spent a lot of money on this, but it does feel like it's starting to feel like a mummy adventure, and that's okay. That's okay that it feels that way. Like maybe that's what it is, but I feel like it's missed a little something in it, and that little something might be what brings people back to watch it. But I it's unfortunately I kept feeling like I was watching, kind of like the Mummy or something like that. It had that feeling. It felt like the mummies were the most important, the gods were the most important things in it. So, and that's okay. I'm not quite sure whether I even understood everything.
I let's just say, when I saw it, I felt like Sally in The Great Pumpkin at the end when she realized that she missed out
Yeah, because she
on
was waiting for the
Halloween.
Great Pumpkin. Yeah.
And that's how I felt watching the finale. I just
Well, one thing I can say is that it it was must have cost a lot of money. It was very expensive. It was not. I'm not dogging the Book of Boba Fett, but this looked like a very expensive production, and there were some effects in it. That water effect, I think it might have been in either episode 1 or episode 2, where you're looking at them, but you're on the water, under the water.
Mhm.
I thought that was really pretty. So there were some really amazing effects in it, and I think it had that feel of, perhaps you are in Egypt or anywhere
Mhm.
where they would have pyramids and the lore of the pyramid
Mhm.
style thing. I think it did capture that, but I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure whether that's what Moon Knight is entirely about. So
Uh,
that's a mystery.
yeah, it's like I like seeing Tierra wet. I love the boat. I
Yeah,
love that was off the chain. I like that. I
yeah,
did, but it was kind of, well, I get into that another time. But let's just say it's like somebody just kind of needed to sit down and make it needed another draft. It just needed another draft before it was shot, because it was good stuff, but stuff just kind of started unraveling near the end, and that's just kind of how I felt. I was just nah. I said nah, and I kind of shook my head because I liked the first episode. I did, and it just the wheels fell off the bus, and it's like the wheels falling off your favorite truck, or you thought was gonna be your favorite, be your favorite truck.
and the truck is still stuck in the sand.
Yeah, you can't get it out, and it's just
No,
like,
it's there.
uh, but this is like the True Blood, and we had talked about this. I'm trying to see
Yes.
where he
Yes.
is in this. Daggone it. I thought I had, is that him? I didn't
I
look.
can't tell from
Yeah, it's kind of far. That looks
yeah.
like him. Maybe not. No, because he's the other guy.
Well, he pretty much made the show.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
if he were not in that show, even though that other actress, Anna Paquin, I think, who was
Mm-hmm.
in it, I don't think it would have gone anywhere without him. He needed to be in that show and to create. Honestly, it felt like it was a precursor to The Walking Dead for me. Shows about kind of these a more gritty version of, because it certainly wasn't, as I said before, he kind of reminded me of one of the vampires from an Anne Rice novel, but the actual feel of True Blood was kind of, it was kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it didn't have the allure or the mysticism of, Interview with a Vampire, but it had Alexander Skarsgard. So
He was very Lestat
yes.
from what I remember. And you're right, it gave me Anne Rice flashbacks. He wasn't he wasn't like one of the baby vampires. He wasn't a groupie or anything like that. It's just like, for lack of a better term, I'm a real vampire. Like he had like that swagger and that bravado, and it's like the old school vampire movies, which is why I like it, which is why I like Bram Stoker's Dracula. I actually
Yes.
read the novel Bram
Oh,
Stoker's
wow.
Dracula. I read that. I'm
Wow.
like, you're gonna let me check this out in school? All right. I'm gonna go home and read it like a monster novel, but the way that it's written and just how descriptive it is, and how Dracula kind of switches between predator and seducer. It's like that. It's like it's never in the same place. It always keeps switching from one to the other, and you like love seeing that. And there's like Dracula always has that seductive quality. That's how he pulls his prey in. And you know, with Alexander Skarsgard's character, he really captured that, because there's an elegance to being a vampire character that you have to have, that makes you believable. That's why Gary Oldman does it so well in
Yeah, Bram
Bram
Stoker's.
Stoker's
Yeah.
Dracula. That's why he does it, so well. Seeing him, and he's so pale, but he's in like all white. It just looks amazing. But yeah, when Alexander Skarsgård came on the scene in True Blood, that's when I literally really got interested.
And I think what's interesting, although it's not sort of like a pop version of a vampire, I think that in Angel, which is like the spinoff from Buffy,
Mhm.
they tried to have David Boreanaz, who's also smoking hot.
Oh
try to
God,
be-
yeah.
and I still watch him in SEAL Team to this day. They tried to get him to be that character, but he wasn't quite the same type of character that Skarsgård elevated the modern day vampire to be.
Yes. With David Boreanaz, who, since I grew up in Philly, his dad was the Channel 6 weatherman.
Oh my God. Does his dad look like him?
Dave Roberts, yes. And I didn't know that for years, because when Dave Roberts, excuse me, got the job in Philly as a weatherman, because unfortunately the previous weatherman, he actually wound up yeeting himself in a skydiving accident, and it was just not good, because a lot of kids would like watch him in school and go to schools and everything. So he got replaced by this guy. We're just like, please don't let anything happen to you. And it turns out that's David Boreanaz's dad.
Oh my God.
It was crazy when I found that out. But you're right. His character, his vampire character, was more of like the school jock kind of character. And it's like it worked, because that's the kind of dynamic that they wanted. But he didn't have that kind of like elegant edge. It's kind of those things like it when you see it.
Yes.
So it's like when I see Angel or Angelus, I don't really get old school Bram Stoker Dracula vibes. I do when I see Alexander Skarsgård's character.
Yeah, and I also think that going forward in his career, so when he did this show, he was probably in his late 20s, early 30s, going forward, and he was a lot younger. So he doesn't look so different now, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe he is like, his body's a little bit heavier, but he doesn't look dramatically different. I think that, however, he is going to be looking for more mature roles, and I think that he is aiming towards that direction, especially with this Northman project.
God,
I
yeah. Did you know this? He gained 20 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did.
I can't wait to honestly, I wish they could make a follow-up to this film. I mean, I don't know if they could. I'm sure there are so many tales to be told about Nordic lore. Why not? Let's see more of what Eggers can produce, but it absolutely has to have Alexander Skarsgård in it. Either, if he doesn't play this role, playing another role. I think that he was just such a perfect fit, Lorena. Now, not all the actors they chose for the film I was fond about, but he in particular, I think he made this whole thing work. I feel like he pulled it together. And, you just can't ignore his physique. I mean, he just really, just absolutely, I think, is such great form. And you could understand if you saw somebody like this coming towards you to fight you, it's like game over. You're not going to be able to beat him. He
No. Look
He'd be
at
like a towering wall coming towards you. You would be terrified, but you might also have some thoughts about some other stuff too. So I don't know.
yeah, I was gonna say it's funny because when my sixth grade teacher would tell me stories of like, the Vikings coming over and they're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
okay, we're gonna pick the best looking women and drag them off. It's kind of like, well, if it look like that, hey, don't threaten me with a good time at all. Oh my gosh, we have a couple comments with regards to True
Yes,
Blood. I want to kind of get to those from
yes,
outer mind.
yes,
Art says Eric Northman had a medieval feel to him on the show.
yes,
I would
yes,
have to agree. He
yes,
really did very, very old, very, very ancient vibe to him as compared to Bill Compton was more colonial. And that was on purpose.
right,
That really was on purpose given the lore of where they were. And again, it's like a parallel to Interview with the Vampire because that was also set in Louisiana, in New Orleans.
yes,
So you had like the colonials that were there, and the Creoles that were there. And then you had the old Europeans, the old Europe, that as well. So I think they did that on purpose, which is really cool. Somebody was reading Anne Rice.
yeah. And Lorraine, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's say if another, I don't know how these things don't work out for so many reasons, but
Hmm.
if they decided to continue that series because we do want to know what happened, let's say in a movie form, we know what happened, but let's just say they wanted to continue that series on modern day. I could
Hmm.
see him playing, a vampire in let's say a Anne Rice vampire going forward. So I wouldn't be so surprised by that.
Hmm.
But I definitely want to see if he's going to make more films like The Northman. I think that there seems to have be, or at least appears to be, a rise in these historical nonfiction stories that
Hmm.
are being made now. And I think that it would be a shame to stop at this film. I think that they could continue this theme. And I know a lot of people might have compared it to Conan and to sort
Hmm.
a lot of sword and sandal movies. I think that stuff like this is really important to make. And so it serves so many purposes, not just historically but in entertainment
Hmm.
value. People want to see this stuff. I couldn't tell you how many people were like, yeah, that was a great film. That's what we're looking for. That's the
Hmm.
type of Hollywood magic, that's the type of star magic that we're looking for when we're looking at something that's going to entertain us. And yes, there was nudity in it, there was sex in it, there was violence in it, but it also told this story that needed to be told. And Lorraine, I have to tell you, there's this one scene, and I know I mentioned it before, that
Hmm.
reminded me of Star Wars. Now, I don't know, Lorraine, I have no idea whether or not Star Wars took from the story. I have no idea. All I know is that the way it was done, and if
Hmm.
it is true to the folklore, it's straight up Star Wars. When Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting, and the outcome is very different, Lorena.
Hmm.
It's a very different outcome, but something about it, the way that it was staged, because I don't know if the location was actually filmed in Iceland towards the end of the film, but wherever it was filmed, it was a place that had volcanic activity, and you could see, sort of like eruptions and all sorts of stuff happening. And
Mm.
there was a lore connected to it. So he was like, I don't know. I'm not saying the exact words, but it was something like, the sword he'll kill somebody in a lake of fire. And I'm like, what? What is that? And of course, it's lava, right? So it's part of the lore. Lorraine, it was
Mhm.
absolutely spectacular. If you saw it,
Oh
when you
my
see
god.
it, you're going to be like, this is what she's talking about. Like that felt like Star Wars to me. And if a film could do that to me, where I'm like, it feels like one of the best films ever made, then I think that they're on to something. And clearly, perhaps that film was influenced by this one. I don't know, but honestly, it felt so good, Lorena. This is how you either, depict something that is in the lore and do it right. Some people will be kind of like have that feeling. Now, Eggers may not have had that intention at all, but that's what it did to me. And I started to think to myself, this is more than just an ordinary film. This is more than just an ordinary film. This is a film that has many elements to it: the lore, the art, the physical demands, and a bunch of other themes to it that really is very, very special. I'm so glad he made it. And had I known Chris was going to interview that guy, I would have said, hey, Chris, can you ask him if he's going to make a second film? Because I really want to see it.
Yeah, I was like, ask him.
Oh,
Chris might have asked him. I still have to watch the interview. So he may have. So his channel's Film Threat. I have to catch up on that. But it's funny you should mention Volcano, because traditionally at the end of wrapping a film, you get like wrap gifts. Well, all the Vikings from the movie got the thong that they wore. So that's that's what Alexander Skarsgard got. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. She's talking about a volcano.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch the playback on this.
It is really something. I learned quite a lot too about the way that they operate, and we've heard stories and we've read books, but this dramatization, I think, was really just so refreshing to see, and it felt realistic. And I've actually heard that there were some people who were shocked by the violence, and I thought to myself, shocked by the violence? I'm like, this is people actually fighting for their lives. This wasn't even this was legitimately what this was. And to do it any other way, would not have been to do the film right with dignity. They needed to show, these depictions in a realistic manner so that the accomplishments and, either accomplishments or failures or whatever they were, could be understood, by everyone. You can't kind of, show it in a way that doesn't truly convey the experience. I think that anyone who watches this will have very clear knowledge of what's going on. Even for me, like, for example, there was a part where they had mushrooms, and I said, oh, I didn't know they used mushrooms. Of course, I'm probably the only person in the entire country who said, oh, I didn't know they used mushrooms. Like, probably everybody knows that they did, but I did not know this. And I learned that. And I thought that was interesting to do, to like give them a boost sometimes when they're fighting. But I have a feeling that they probably didn't even need them. They could probably still go out there and kick ass no matter what. But that was something that I thought was interesting to show. Like, it was right in front of your face. It was very clear. You didn't have to say, is that a mushroom? No. You knew what it was. Sometimes when you see in depictions in films and it's hazy, or you're not quite sure, it's not quite clear. No, not in this film. Everything is completely clear. Now, there's a vision sequence where Bjork plays a seer, and she is fantastic. And I'm like, this is amazing. She needs to be in more films. And I couldn't help but think about when she wore that swan dress to
I remember that. Yeah.
And how people actually thought that she needed to be committed. This wasn't they were seriously like, there's something wrong with her. And this is at a gala where people do wear, different things and have expression. She wore it. It may not have been a gala, actually. It might have been a movie premiere, but she wore it. I think it was at the Met Gala, but I could be wrong. But it's such an iconic dress now that people are trying to capture that moment, Lorena. And that's what this film reminds me of. This film reminds me of that moment when Bjork came out, and ironically, she's in the film in that swan dress, and everybody was like, oh my God. And everybody looked at it and trying to figure it out. That's what this film is. That's how impactful this film is. And it has Alexander Skarsgard in it.
Yeah, that it does. I mean, I cannot flip and wait to see the Northman. I can't wait. And I find it so interesting that since he's in that movie, that people are so interested, in him again. And it's funny because this article says Alexander Skarsgård says people didn't take me seriously because of his looks in early career.
What? But even after seeing him in Generation Kill, that was a serious film, show that he was in. But wow, they didn't take him seriously. I feel terrible about that.
They did not, and I found out the reason why. Do you remember a movie called Zoolander?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Our boy was in Zoolander. All right. Our boy was literally in Zoolander. So I'm gonna try to play a little bit. Let's
Thursday, when we like to go into the vault.
Let's see. So they're gonna go into the vault here. Oh, this is freaking perfect. This scene right here, I'm gonna blow this up.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes, you are welcome. This now, Zoolander is one of my favorite guilty freaking pleasures to watch.
Yes.
First of all, I love Ben Stiller's dad. Now, Ben Stiller's dad, God rest his soul. He played the model agent Marty Balls of Balls Models. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. It was so good.
It was so
good.
freaking funny. They decided all the male models that they were going to go out. And the one in green up there, that's Alexander Skarsgård. Oh my God.
It looks like a college beer run or something, right?
And they went, but they had to go for orange mocha frappuccino. It is one of the cheesiest scenes. And you hear, oh my gosh, wake me up before you go. Not George Michael, Wham, when the crew was together. And this is one of just.
It's over 20 years ago.
Over 20. And he's just like, oh man.
For fun? You just went to the audition for fun?
This is just it's one of just the most hilarious, iconic scenes in
Well, it also shows that he's able to do comedy.
He is. And the funny thing is, with him doing comedy and him getting this role, literally he like slid into LA, found an agent, and then booked this job. Wow. And then I think it was like 3 years before we got anything else after that. But the fact that because of his looks that he picked that up, and just how he can do comedy, because he's so into this. And this is what sells this scene, because there's these brainless, male models. Oh God, I can't believe my computer did that.
I love it, Lorena. I love it. I know I feel your pain. But I think that just shows, he remembers that stuff. Thank goodness it wasn't Xanadu. That's all I'm going to say.
Ooh, man. Let's see if I can reload the page. Decided to say, nope, you guys are laughing too hard, but I'm going to take it seriously. We're not gonna show it. But yeah, that's him. That's
so.
Meekus.
Let me ask you. That's the funny thing about this, Lorena, is that in Zoolander, so let's say hypothetically he plays a young male model who's gorgeous, who's stunning, uber hot, right?
Yeah.
But we still had not seen sexy, this man kind of expose himself in a sexy way. He's not a sex symbol in the story. He's supposed to be incredibly attractive, because he's a model and he's perfect. But,
right.
I think in the Northman, that might be the first time that we really see his sex appeal in a way that I haven't really seen it before, because, I was on his side, through the story, whether it was right or wrong. I found myself cheering, to that he could get what he wanted in the story. And I really hadn't, it's not that he wasn't an attractive man. I just think that he has pushed himself to a higher level of sex appeal. And I think that he's going to start to get more roles like, that have sex appeal in it, because you can't deny the sex appeal in the Northman. You can't deny it. There was the film itself,
I
you
don't want
know,
to.
has so much of that in it that you can't, pretend that it's a society that isn't a sexual one. So,
Mhm.
I think that alone is something that was used in the film, maybe not by him, but perhaps the character that Anna Taylor-Joy played, where, she looked a certain way and people liked her and she knew she could use that as a bargaining chip, but she almost had to, just even for survival, not getting killed.
Mhm.
It made the difference between, being alive and being dead. So, she knew that was important. And I think that that's something that's very interesting. And it's okay that was done, because,
Mhm.
sometimes in a film that is so brutal, that does have so much brutality, we do need to see things like that things like that do happen, that he could find somebody to be with. And, of course, it wasn't quite, sort of like a rom-com, but,
Mhm. But those
but
kind
it
of like
definitely,
those moments that they kind of put in there to kind of balance, because it can't be, you know, like blood and guts and all that like all the time. It's just like there needs to be something to kind of balance it to keep people interested, in the story. So, man.
yeah, and I think that desire to, at least for the main character, to continue, and knowing that he had this sort of responsibility in that way, it had some very interesting twists and turns. And so while this picture, it's supposed to be a hot male model who, would work for Abercrombie and Fitch, I guess, or, one of those campaigns where he's in his underwear or something. He
Mhm.
hasn't been. He's very, very attractive here, but I have to say, the Northman, we've never seen us. Someone's gonna snip this, like take a clip of this. In the Northman, Alexander Skarsgard has never been this hot. So you have to check him out. So someone's gonna take that and like,
Like, oh yeah, that's an endorsement right there. But just to show you the contrast between Alexander Skarsgård as Meekest the male model in Zoolander, and
Mhm.
then him in the Northman, I'm gonna have to like EFAP this, but this is so freaking funny.
I know, right? Riding in on that scooter like he's so cool.
And the way Hansel combs his hair.
Or like doesn't. It's like
Squeeze
excuse me, but
me.
have you ever heard of styling gel?
Aw,
It's so cute.
he's almost like a teenager there. This is, I think that there was that kind of innocence that Zoolander pushed through, where there wasn't an evil bone in any of these guys' bodies. All they had was about sort of like having this image, and that
Mhm.
was it. That's what was important. And this comedy and this, he probably could do more stuff like this, but we need to see more of Alexander for sure. And
Mhm.
I want to see roles like, I want to see, yeah, I guess I want to see more of that.
I agree with you. I want to see more of this. Now him as this, it's his first role. You can
Yeah.
see how cute he is. And he really didn't take it too seriously because he didn't expect to even land this. Like he showed up in LA, agent said, found him somewhere, says, oh, do you have an agent? No. Would you like one? Yeah, okay. Go try for this role. Oh, okay. All right. And that was like it. And then nothing happened for
Right.
3 years. So I think he didn't really take it seriously in a good way, because it's like, yeah, I got hired for this role, whatever. And it's cute to see that. And you go from that to this. It's such a beautiful evolution. Oh my God.
And I think
Beautiful.
kudos to men in their 40s, which he is,
Hmm.
out there. You men in your 40s,
Still doing the darn thing.
yes, creating the dream for us. Thank you so
Hmm.
much, men in your 40s. We salute you. Um,
Oh yeah.
and yes, I think this shows just absolutely the brilliance of of being a man, and he is startling to look at on the screen. He fills the image, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
he? You know, it's almost like his arms are like wings. It's just really remarkable how he just commands. And I think that this might also, not that he wasn't popular before, but now this might solidify him as a contender in Hollywood for other roles as well. And I think that that's also very important, not just for his career, but for, you know, us, um, embracing the masculinity that we want to see on the screen going forward.
Absolutely. It's just like this, granted, it looks good. Men are just like, that guy is cut. Yes, he is. However, all of the adverts that show this is to basically say, women, you need to come and check this out. You need to come and watch this, because it's just like, yeah, okay. He looks hot. And that's why, because if they didn't want women to see this movie, one, they wouldn't have him seriously bulk up like that. I mean, let's be honest. And then the shirt, it's not like he's in his Viking raiding gear, because you see that with like all the gear. No, he's freaking shirtless and he's got blood on it.
Well, in some of the gear, Lorena, they're just wearing loincloths. They don't have a lot on their bodies in some of the scenes. And I have a feeling that perhaps they didn't wear as much as what we've seen in the past in different depictions. And I know Andre could be the one here be saying, well, no, this
I can so hear that right now.
Sorry, Andre, but in regards to what they actually wore at certain times, sometimes this is what they wore, Lorena. And I myself did not know this. And I'm sure Andre will have this is not a question that I think I would straight out ask him about, but I might ask him, were the clothing that they wore or were not wearing accurate during the rating scenes? And he would say, oh yes, or oh no.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was important to note, because we get to see a little bit of the form, and the form creates some of the fear. The form of the physical body creates some of the fear for a lot of people, because once you see that, you can't fight against that. It's like he's like a wall that you can't push back against, because he's so strong. So that you need to see the muscles, you need to see the strength in this person, you need to see that they have all this power built into them physically, and that's part of the intimidation in the in the pillaging scenes and in the invasion scenes. That's part of the scariness of it all. So you needed to see that they couldn't be completely covered up. And I think that this was what they said that they would wear when they would go out, and this is how it was done. And I'm glad that they're showing it that way, so that people can understand that the body is a human condition that can be admired but also feared, perhaps at the same time.
Exactly. Hey, Cavatinho Che says that is a lot of hard work and getting body fat as low as possible while staying healthy. Yeah, from what I understand, Alexander Skarsgard, his trainer, had him working out, I want to say like almost close to six days a week.
Wow.
I mean, he was hitting serious weights. He did not have a seriously restricted diet. I find that interesting. They didn't like put him on a special diet or anything like that. I think what they did was physically put his body through like a seriously grueling weight training workout. And yeah, like 6 days a week, dude was just in there. Pay attention, Robert Pattinson.
Well, Robert might get there. You don't know. I mean, let's see what happens for him.
He squad goals. Not that you look exactly like Alexander Skarsgard, but just saying. Just saying. But yeah, this is God, this is gorgeous. I love this shot. I love just how unapologetically masculine it is.
Yes.
I freaking love it. There's
Yeah.
there's nothing, there's no apology with this. It's like, this is what I look like. Yeah, I had to kill some people, but that's what I do. You know, that's what I do. That's what Vikings are known for. Vikings are not known for being very nice people, like I said, and a lot of like that medieval English literature and lore, they say, Lord, protect us from the wrath of the Northmen. They were not people to mess with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said before, if you like fighting scenes, this is the film for you as well. So
How
you will
were
see
the fighting scenes? How was the fight coordination?
it was wonderful. There was a lot going on that I had to turn my head away from, not because it was too brutal, but I was like, oh no, he's gonna, kind of like that sort of thing. Everything, it was all satisfying to me. I definitely it was exactly what I was expecting to see in a film. I thought they did
Mhm.
such a beautiful job. It looked so real. You felt like you were in this film sometimes, during the filming of it.
Mhm.
Some of the scenes kind of drew you in. You didn't feel like you were kind of like an outsider, and you almost felt like you were in that village and he was standing right next to you. So I do really appreciate that, and I think they also did show some of the physical differences between the lands they
Mhm.
were invading and their physical difference, and they were dramatic. They were bigger. uh, their appearance seemed
Mm.
to be bigger than a lot of the people's lands they were invading. So there was that as well, which is also very intimidating. So that is very interesting. Oh, there's another
Wow,
comment.
let's see. It reminds me
Hi.
of boot camp workout, such as a workout called Cinco 5. It works, but it is grueling.
Wow. Wow. It sounds amazing.
I believe it. I took a boot camp class. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna die. Okay, no, I know I'm not, but oh Lord, it was seriously, seriously grueling.
I like boot camps because there's going to be an end to it, but I made the mistake once of taking a boot camp class on the sand, and that was terrible. Don't do
Okay,
it.
I won't.
Unless you like abrasions everywhere.
That just sounds so painful.
It was
I
painful. I was
won't.
fine until I was like, oh no, like the next few days I was like, wow, there's a lot of bruising on me. And it was just from the sand, honestly, but it's okay. Um, so, I think going forward, I think he's going to be in many more roles like this. I think there's a push towards more historical films that people want to see,
Mhm.
and we're going to see him in more films like this. We're definitely going to see him in more military roles, Lorena. He's going to be playing things like, uh,
Mhm.
perhaps a more Generation Kill style, or I can't remember the other film that he was in 2019, very similar, where he plays sort of like an out of
Ah,
control sergeant or lieutenant. And that one was excellent as well.
the kill
But I've also
team?
seen him in some other things that I thought were very different. He was in a film called Mute, which was kind of, blasted because they felt that he was a character that could not speak. But
Mhm.
taking on things like that, he didn't have to play that role. That might not have been something that every
Okay.
actor wants to play. So
Mhm.
now, of course, in a role like that, you have to be able to convey what's happening physically rather than being speaking, kind of like that character in Game of Thrones, whose name I can't remember,
Mm.
but that's not an easy film to do. But he really is, I think, now going to be pushed into the realm of the star that he, has the potential to be. I think that this is a shining moment for him. I
Mhm.
don't know. It's kind of early in the season, as I said before, for the film to be recognized, meaning awards wise. But
Mhm.
um, with such a long season coming out, and perhaps maybe the first year where we're coming out of this whole pandemic thing, there
Mhm.
will be more films coming out that might
Mhm.
perhaps be contenders. But he certainly should get some sort of recognition for this. This was really all him, I felt, and just remarkable. It's remarkable. Which I can't wait for you to see this, Lorraine. You got it.
I am
See this.
thinking, and this is kind of like what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that maybe, because it's in like I think like in limited theaters right now. I'm thinking once it finally hits physical media and streaming, it may become one of those cult films that everybody has to see, and everybody has to have, and it's even bigger when it's available to more people, because this exclusively went to theater. So it didn't do like a hybrid model of like they released it in theaters and then they kind of released it on streaming. Exclusively theatrical release. So I'm really interested in seeing how this can potentially blow up once people are able to buy it in one form or another. I know I can't wait to see it, because I have to say I love Viking movies. Like I said, I like the season 1 of Vikings, because that other one I don't acknowledge. Just nah, I don't no I don't acknowledge that one. But yeah, I really hope he is in more and more things. Like you said, him being in the Northman really pushed his recognition up. So I think his next movie, which I think is it post? Yeah, it's in post production. It's called Infinity Pool. So it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of information about it, except for all-inclusive beach vacation in a fictional island of Latoka, when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. Sounds freaking crazy.
It sounds like a contender for Crimes of the Future. Like because that film also talks about, is it it's considered like a body horror film, but it's accepted, like an accepted situation. So where the people are, sure, let's go ahead and chop someone into pieces or something like that. So
yeah, it's like, why not?
Yeah.
But I can't wait to see what Alexander Skarsgard is going to be doing next. I cannot wait to sit down and watch The Northman and just freaking enjoy it. Enjoy it the same way that I enjoy watching 300.
Yes, you will. You will enjoy it. I think that it's as significant as the film 300. And now I don't know I don't know how Yeah. I don't know how historically accurate 300 was, but it's there's definitely a comparison that people are making to the two of them, mainly because of how beautiful the physiques were in the Northman. Even I was blown away by how beautiful these men's bodies were.
That's why I like 300. Shoot.
Yeah.
I like 300 for two reasons. One, it was the first movie I think that was edited and put all together on Linux computer systems. That's number one.
Oh.
And number two, how freaking hot they all look. I'm just saying.
Everybody had a 6 or 9 or 12 or whatever pack there. Everybody had it. And I was like, wow.
It's like, I can't stop looking. I can't.
Is this humanly possible? Like, can we have a world like this?
Oh,
what world is this?
I know.
Go there.
Yeah, go there. Bring it to us.
Yes.
Oh, well, folks, this is going to wrap up another amazing episode of Toxic Male Appreciation. We're so glad you could hang out with her and myself over here on Twitch. Please do subscribe to both of us over here and also over on YouTube. Is also known as Positive Fandom, so please do look for that. And of course, please do subscribe to me over here on Twitch and YouTube. Next week, same time here on Twitch, 5 p.m. Eastern. Our next actor of interest, Henry Cavill.
Yes. Okay.
It's gonna be fire.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fire. And so cannot wait to discuss his career and his assets with all of you when we come back next week. So with that said, folks, have a great time. Thank you so much for indulging with all of this, because we just have too much fun. I just love doing this with you. And we will see you next time. Bye.